Hey there, Cary Minden, CJM Realty here. Just wanted to come and do a quick market update. I just spent the last couple weeks, well, not last week, I was recovering last week, but spent the 2 weeks prior to that learning a lot about the real estate market and thought I'd share that. And what's interesting is these were from different avenues. So I kind of had the somewhat optimistic real estate view at one conference I went to, and then the pessimistic or the default REO side of the view at the other conference. What fascinated me is while there were differences in what they were saying, a lot of it was similar. So when you get very similar things in just the numbers from people that are optimistic, people that are pessimistic, and they're kind of saying the same thing, that might be a trend from the experts, if that makes sense. So going to do a bit of time, but just want to preface this is what I'm talking about is just the numbers, not getting political here. I don't care if you're in a blue state or a red state or you vote pink alien from Mars or wherever. So not trying to be anything political, just trying to do the facts and numbers. So first go from there. Getting right to it is, first I want to talk about nationwide trends and expectations in the real estate market. Now remember, real estate is very local. I'll go into some of the very local here in the greater Vancouver, Washington, Portland, Oregon metro at the end. But most of what I'm going to be saying is national. Some areas are going to always go up and some areas go down, and that's going to be different depending where you're at in the nation. So mega trends in real estate in the next few years. So foreclosures are going to increase, but that's an increase from artificially low levels. I've been reading, I'm involved in the foreclosure market. That's 20 to 30% of what I do. And the headlines recently have been foreclosures are up at the 2019 level. Well, 2019 was a super low level for foreclosures based on historical data. One of the things that I keep hearing from some of my clients is we're going to wait until the market crashes like it did in 2007, 8, 9. Probably not going to happen, which is a good thing, by the way. But the reason that won't happen is, I mean, I can go into a whole video just on that, but a big one is we have workout programs at the federal, at the state, often at even the city and county level, where banks and government entities can't just foreclose that fast. In a few states they can, Texas being a prime example, but here in Washington and Oregon, it can take up to 3 years before the bank can evict someone, take the property and sell it. So this is something that's going to work through and delay and happen over time. In some states, it'll happen over more time than others. I happen to live in a couple of those states where the foreclosure process will be slow in coming, slower than what's predicted, and then it will continue on longer than predicted because of the built-in delays. But what's predicted on a nationwide basis is foreclosures will double from where they're at in a low environment right now. So they'll double next year, which will be about a normal one. They'll double and then double again. So it'll still be much lower than the 7, 8, 9, 10 era, much higher than average, and then it'll drift back down. Again, it'll be faster in some areas and slower in others. Now, here's the thing is I get a lot of comments from clients going, I want a foreclosure. I want to look for one. So one, there's not a lot of foreclosures in the market, right? So that's number one. Number two is if you think about a foreclosure, if you're a normal buyer, that means you have financing. Often these foreclosures will have 2, 3, 4, 5 years of deferred maintenance and sometimes hidden damages. Dealing in this market, for example, is because of all the COVID, restrictions on evictions and stuff like that, is I have almost every foreclosure property that I'm listing and selling right now, the pipes have been broken because the bank couldn't get in there and preserve the property fast enough because of how all the restrictions were done. So there's a lot, sometimes big hidden expenses or even obvious expenses that cause the property not able to be financed and can cause your cash outlay to fix it to be higher than you might think. Moving on, another big trend is we're still not building enough housing units, from apartments to condos to townhouses. It almost was back, and this has been a trend since 2007. And this is for population increase from birth, from legal immigration, from illegal immigration, or whatever you want to call it, all methods of households growing in the market. We just haven't been building enough units. And that's been since 2007. It almost got back on track in 2020, and then COVID hit, and that derailed it. Then we had material increases and price increases and wage issues, and could people even show up? And then supply chain issues, and now fear of recession and inflation. It just makes it a very hot and cold market for new construction, and that's keeping it to lower levels than might be otherwise. So that's an issue nationwide. Another issue that's great, actually, is the trend for aging in place. There's great healthcare solutions, in-home healthcare, that sort of thing, that's extending out and changing the trend for assisted living and that sort of housing. There's still a lot of assisted living and care homes as we age. I'm an expert in that. That's a different qualification, but that's a different trend than it was in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Now the trend is shifting again to aging in place, keeping often a paid off house or staying in a inexpensive rental where the landlord is, respecting that you've lived there for a long time, hopefully, and piecemealing together your healthcare versus moving entirely to a assisted living facility. So that's a trend. Another huge trend that's in the news is the interest rate lock-in. So I think I saw somewhere 97% of people with a home that owned a home during the COVID eras either bought a home at the low interest rate or refinanced at the low interest rate. So that lock-in effect is if you have an interest rate at 3% or lower, and you're thinking about moving, unless you're forced to move, you can actually downsize and still pay a higher interest rate and a higher payment. Unless you're able to downsize enough that you pay cash somewhere, if you're just laterally moving or if you're moving up, the traditional move-up buyer is stymied because to move up a little bit can cost you double, just that fast. So that's locking people into their houses, and that's part of why we have so low inventory for purchase and selling right now. So the future of the market, a little bit, the optimistic and the pessimistic agree, it will be a hot and cold market for the next 3 to 5 years. Interest rates are going to drift up and down based on the market and the Fed and inflation and lower inflation and jobs and no jobs. So this will be a time of interest rates will drift down, buyers will go into the market and buy, interest rates will go up, buyers will go, well, I can't buy. And this is very much driven by the Fed. The Fed has stated that they will destroy jobs and they do want to affect the real estate market. But here's the thing is, for those of you thinking a recession is coming, which almost everyone agrees, this is the most predicted recession ever in history that's coming. So eventually they'll be right. But the prediction by the pessimistic economists is somewhere between 1 to 2 million jobs will be lost before inflation fighting is done. And so you'll have call it 1.5 million people that will lose their jobs, and their houses will need to be either sold, maybe they'll have to short sell, maybe they'll be in foreclosure. But the difference is then if the Fed adjusts interest rates, which is also predicted, then there'll be a 1%. So 1% lower interest rate will mean 5 million more buyers will qualify for housing. So there'll be 2 to 3 to 3.5 million more qualified buyers than there are, because of job loss, disqualified potential sellers, either through normal selling or through bank foreclosure or other processes. This is why in the last 70 years, there's only been one recession. It's the one that's big in our head still because real estate did go down. But out of the other 8 recessions in the last 70 years, real estate went up or it went sideways. And this is again on a national basis. There are spots in the nation, the prices are going down. Another trend is there's more cash buyers. And a couple of different reasons. There's a big trend to move from high taxation states to low taxation states. So people, as they're aging or they're able to work remotely, they're retired, they want their retirement to last longer, so they go to a lower tax state. That's a big trend, and those are often higher to lower real estate values. So they're able to sell their house and move somewhere else and buy a house for cash. Another one is people that have had cash on the sidelines. Now suddenly that cash, we're at 3%, they might have gotten a loan because that was cheap money. At 6 or 7%, they'll pay cash because they don't want to pay that. So that's a trend. And then just the last one is as a percentage of houses, if you take 30% of the people out of the market because they no longer qualify because of interest rates, you still have the same number of cash buyers. So as a percentage, there'll be more of the market. A little bit here immediately local in the Portland, Vancouver market is you have a very mixed market. You hear in the media a lot, the core downtown Portland, Portland, Oregon is doing this. What they're usually talking about when it's negative news is that's the core downtown area. The core downtown area has been hit hard for various reasons. And vacancy rates, depending which type of vacancy, is anywhere from 30 to 60% in a lot of the commercial spaces in the core downtown Portland metro. But what's happened is those businesses now have opened up into the suburban areas. So Vancouver, Washington, I grew up here and we hated being called a suburb of Portland, but we are. We've had many people come over here. They've left the core area of Portland, but that's also happened in Gresham, in Sandy, and Beaverton, and Lake Oswego and Wilsonville. So all the outer areas of the metro have been strengthened by people leaving the core. So it's kind of a tale of two markets here locally even. We're seeing multiple offers. I have clients that come from a less strong market that want to make under list offers, and that's just not happening right now. Right now, we're having multiple offers over list, especially in the under, say, $700,000 market. It's tough. You get up over 700,000-800,000, and it's not quite as hot of a market. Depending again where, location, right? If you get into the longer term non-specific real estate, so here's the next 2 presidents prediction based upon history. And I've already gone way too long in this video, but the prediction is we're going to have in the most recent memory, a Carter-Reagan era bump. So we'll have whoever the next president is going to get crucified. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat or independent. the economy is predicted to crash in the stock market mainly, not real estate. Again, on nationwide averages. So jobs will go down, stock market will be affected, interest rates and inflation will probably spike again. That's a prediction, so who knows? But so the next president will get blamed for that, whoever they are. And the president after that will come in and be the savior. So that's happened 5 times previously in the US. And there's other examples of that happening in other countries throughout the world. So that's just kind of an interesting non-real estate prediction, nothing to do with which party, because whichever party it is, it's going to be the opposite one that gets the praise. Yeah, all the wild, complicated stuff. So Cary Minden, CJM Realty, if you want to get in depth more on your specific situation, real estate is very micro market, and the market changes on a daily and weekly basis. So I'm not, like I try to jokingly say, is I'm not schizophrenic, but my opinion changes depending on what the data changes are. So hopefully that's of help. Love to talk to you, or a friend or a coworker. They're looking to buy or sell a house. Send them this way. Talk to you soon.